What if I told you that one of the greatest civilizations of the Americas, an empire stretching across mountains, valleys, and deserts, collapsed not over centuries, but within just a few years? The Inca Empire, masters of the Andes, who built Machu Picchu, ruled millions, and engineered roads across impossible terrains, seemed destined to thrive for centuries. And yet, in the early 1500s, this mighty empire fell with astonishing speed. The question is, how could a civilization so vast and powerful be destroyed so quickly? Let's dive deep into the downfall of the Inca Empire, a story of internal strife, cunning strategies, disease, and the clash of two worlds. The rise before the fall. Before understanding the fall, we must look at what made the Inca so extraordinary. By the early 16th century, the Inca Empire, called Tawantinsuyu, stretched over 2,500 miles along the Andes, from modern-day Colombia down to Chile. It was the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Their roads rivaled those of Rome, their agricultural terraces fed millions, and their centralized government demanded loyalty and tribute from dozens of conquered tribes. But here's the key. This empire was young. Unlike Rome, which had centuries to grow, the Inca Empire was barely 100 years old. Expansion had been rapid, forced, and often resisted. Beneath the surface, resentment simmered among many conquered peoples. And when pressure came from outside, these cracks would shatter the empire. A silent killer arrives long before Spanish soldiers reached the Inca heartland, an invisible enemy arrived: disease. When Europeans set foot in the Americas, they brought smallpox, measles, and influenza. For the Inca, who had no immunity, these diseases spread like wildfire. Smallpox in particular devastated entire regions, wiping out villages and destabilizing the empire even before the Spanish conquest began. But the most critical blow: the disease killed the Emperor Huayna Capac around 1527. Suddenly, the Inca were left without a clear succession plan. His death triggered a civil war that would weaken the empire right before the Spanish appeared. Brothers at war: Atahualpa versus Huáscar. After Huayna Capac's death, two of his sons, Atahualpa and Huáscar, claimed the throne. What followed was a brutal civil war that tore the empire apart. Huáscar, ruling from Cusco, represented the traditional capital, while Atahualpa, leading from Quito, commanded powerful armies in the north. The war was bloody. Tens of thousands died, resources drained, and the empire's unity shattered. By the time Atahualpa finally defeated Huáscar and claimed power in 1532, the Inca state was exhausted. And just then, another storm was brewing: the arrival of a small group of strangers from across the ocean. Enter the Spanish. Francisco Pizarro. In 1532, Francisco Pizarro, a Spanish conquistador, landed on the northern coast of Peru with fewer than 200 men. Now, imagine that. An empire of millions facing just a few hundred foreigners. Logic suggests the Spaniards should have been wiped out immediately. But history rarely follows logic. The Spanish came armed with steel weapons, guns, and horses, technologies unknown to the Inca. But more importantly, they came armed with strategy, deception, and an uncanny ability to exploit divisions within the empire. The fateful meeting at Cajamarca. Atahualpa, fresh from victory over Huáscar, agreed to meet Pizarro at Cajamarca. Confident in his power, Atahualpa underestimated the Spaniards. He arrived with thousands of unarmed retainers, treating the meeting as a formality rather than a threat. What happened next was a turning point in world history. The Spaniards ambushed the Inca. With cannons, guns, and cavalry, they unleashed chaos on the unsuspecting crowd. In minutes, thousands were slaughtered, and Atahualpa, the emperor himself, was captured. This single event marked the symbolic collapse of Inca authority. Imagine, the most powerful man in the empire, reduced to a prisoner of a handful of foreigners. Atahualpa's ransom and execution. Held hostage, Atahualpa tried to buy his freedom. He offered the Spaniards a room filled with gold and silver, literally. And the Incas delivered, handing over unimaginable wealth. But once the Spaniards had the treasure, they executed him anyway in 1533. The death of Atahualpa created chaos. Without a central ruler, the already weakened empire spiraled further into disarray. Different factions tried to seize power, and the Spaniards cleverly supported whichever group served their interests at the moment. Divide and conquer. Here's a crucial point. The Spaniards never conquered the Inca Empire alone. They had help from the Incas' own enemies. Remember the resentment among conquered tribes? Groups like the Huancas and the Cañaris, who had been forced into Inca rule, now allied with the Spaniards. They provided manpower, local knowledge, and supplies. In fact, the majority of Pizarro's fighting force wasn't Spanish. It was indigenous allies who saw the downfall of the Inca as their opportunity for freedom. Ironically, these groups traded one master for another. March on Cusco. With Atahualpa dead, the Spaniards and their allies marched toward Cusco, the Inca capital. Despite resistance, the fractured leadership and civil war aftermath made organized defense nearly impossible. By 1533, Cusco fell into Spanish hands, and with it, the heart of the empire. But the story doesn't end there. For years, resistance flared up. Leaders like Manco Inca fought back, even establishing a refuge in Vilcabamba. Yet, without unity, resources, or immunity to disease, resistance was doomed. By the 1570s, the last Inca stronghold fell, ending the empire for good. Why did the Inca Empire fall so quickly? Looking back, the speed of the Inca collapse seems shocking. But when we piece it together, the reasons become clear. Disease weakened the population and killed the emperor. Civil war between Atahualpa and Huáscar drained resources and split loyalties. Spanish military technology, horses, steel, and firearms created fear and confusion. The capture of Atahualpa destroyed centralized authority in a highly centralized state. Indigenous allies gave the Spanish numbers and local knowledge. It wasn't just one factor, it was the perfect storm of internal weakness and external exploitation. Legacy of the fall. The fall of the Inca Empire wasn't just the collapse of a state, it was the destruction of an entire way of life. The Spanish imposed their language, religion, and rule. Temples were destroyed or converted into churches. Millions of indigenous people were forced into labor under the encomienda system. And yet, the Inca legacy survives. From the ruins of Machu Picchu to the Quechua language spoken by millions today, the memory of the Inca continues to inspire awe. Their story is both a warning about fragility in the face of division and a testament to resilience in the face of loss. So, why did the Inca Empire fall? Not because they were weak, but because they faced a perfect storm of disasters: disease, civil war, foreign invaders, and betrayal from within. It's a story that reminds us how quickly even the greatest powers can crumble when unity is lost. And here's a bonus fact. Did you know that despite the Spanish conquest, the Inca system of roads, over 25,000 miles long, is still used in parts of South America today? Proof that while empires may fall, their achievements can endure for centuries.